Welcome back to Vox Popcast presents X2Z movies. I still haven't decided what I'm calling the show yet. It's kind of weird, like recording all of them in the future, but then editing them and then watching them in the past, or I don't know. On my other show, I call it Podcast Time Travel. But hi, my name is Christopher Maverick. You can call me Mav, and I am the host of this show and another show. I'm a professor of English and pop culture and literature and digital narrative. And I don't know, I do stuff at the University of Pittsburgh. And I talk about movies and culture for a living. And I thought I want to do that in a movie review podcast. And I had all the people in the world to choose from who were academics and PhD havers and film studies people. And instead of picking any of them, I decided to pick this young person here who is right next to me in the video screen. I don't know how this works, but hi, young person. Who are you?
Hi, my name is Marie. I'm your niece.
Uh-huh.
I'm in eighth grade.
So, do you have a PhD in film studies?
I do not have a PhD in anything.
You don't even have a high school degree. You've not even been to high school yet. How,
Nope, all I have is a PSAT score.
how are you even on this show?
I don't know, you invited me.
Yeah, well, I like watching movies and I like talking to you. So, and do you like movies?
I do like movies.
Okay, wonderful.
This
So,
gives me a lot of movies.
excuse to watch a lot of movies. And this movie, the movie we're going to watch today, the entire reason I wanted to do this show was I thought it would be fun to split the kinds of movies we watched, where we were watching both movies that might have been aimed at young people like myself, but versus movies that were aimed at even younger people like Marie over there. This is a movie that was not aimed at either of our age groups because this is a movie that is actually old even for me. Came out long before I was born, and I was born a little bit before you. Um, this is the movie Casablanca, one of my favorite movies. Had you ever seen it before?
I didn't know it existed until we did
You never even
this.
heard of Casablanca before.
No.
So your dad, like, I have to yell at him. Your dad had never said, "Hey, she should watch." I don't even know if your dad likes Casablanca. It's not really his kind of movie, but I liked it a lot. So Casablanca is a 1942 romantic drama starring Humphrey Bogart as Rick and Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa Lund. And it is the story of Rick owns a bar in the city of Casablanca. During World War II, America has not yet entered the war, and they're trying to stay neutral. And in the city of Casablanca, the Nazis are sort of invading, but the French are also holding Casablanca. And Rick is just kind of an American, also trying to stay neutral to the entire conflict. But meanwhile, a man named Victor Laszlo is trying to get out of the country. He is a freedom fighter, and Victor is being pursued by the Nazis, and he needs to leave the country. And in order to get out of the country, he needs to procure these things called the letters of transit. So he goes to this man who he thinks can help him. He goes to Rick, and he brings with him his wife, Ilsa. And it turns out Ilsa is Rick's ex girlfriend, and the drama breaks down from there, and it's like a big question of, how did Ilsa and Rick end up breaking up? Do they want to get back together? Does she need to stay with her husband? Will Rick help them get out of the country? And will he help fight the war? And that's the story of Casablanca. It is a story of intrigue and mystery. What'd you think?
It wasn't bad. It
It
wasn't
wasn't
my
bad.
favorite. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't bad. I especially in the beginning, I was
Mhm.
for a good while, I was completely lost. It took until about like a third into the movie when I finally started to get what the heck was going on.
Okay. So you'd never even heard of it, which I think is amazing because it's one of the most important movies of all time.
Yeah. I didn't
Hmm.
know Casablanca was a place until this movie, actually.
Yeah. Well, let's start there. So you never heard of it. It is Casablanca, is a city in Morocco, in Africa,
Mhm.
and you didn't know about the city. You knew what World War II was. You're aware that there was a
Yes.
World War II.
I was
Um,
aware there was a Second World War.
all right. So, but like, since you've never heard of the film, you've got no particular reason to like. when I watched the film for the first time, I know that it was this great film classic, but you never heard of it. So you've got no particular reason to like it or not like it other than, I said, "Hey, go watch this." And so what were your thoughts? What did you like? What did you not like?
Um, I liked the acting specifically. I really liked Ilsa's character.
Mhm.
In the sense that you can tell that she loves her husband, but she also loves
Mhm.
Rick, and you see her portray that in different scenes. Where in some scenes she's very clearly attached to Victor, and then there are other scenes, specifically in the flashbacks and near the end,
Mhm.
where you can tell she loves Rick. It's just an interesting, like, internal conflict that you can see because normally internal conflicts you see
Mhm.
in novels.
Mhm.
Um, but it was nice to see a really clear one in a movie. Um,
Were you like rooting for one side or the other? Were you like I'm team Rick or you're like I'm team Victor? Did you have a preference?
not really.
No, really. You're
Um,
like just whoever, whatever.
like I said, there were parts of the story I had no clue what was going on.
Mhm.
Um, it took me until Victor was like trying to look for them to
Mhm.
realize what the letters of transit were.
Yeah, the
Not
letters of
know
transit
what
are nice. The letters of transit are what in film analysis especially, but also in literary analysis, it's called we use the term it's a MacGuffin. So what a MacGuffin is in a movie, sometimes everybody is after one thing, and what the thing is, it's got some random importance to the plot, but really it doesn't really matter. The entire point on the MacGuffin is it's just the thing that everybody in the movie is chasing. So like there's the movie The Maltese Falcon is a famous one, or have you ever seen Pulp Fiction? If you've never seen Pulp Fiction, there's a briefcase that everybody's seen. I know another one of the movies that we've done in our little series of podcasts
Mhm.
is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and that one they're all chasing the eye of the jaguar. It is a thing that everybody in the movie wants, so that you have a goal for them all to be going on, basically a
Mhm.
fetch quest, like in a video
Mhm.
game. They're all just going after the same thing. So the letters of transit for the movie, like they allow anybody to leave Casablanca and get through customs, which is not really a thing. These don't really exist in real life. There is no magical document where that you can ever give to a customs agent and they say and the customs agent says, "Are you a terrorist?" and you say, "Here are my letters of transit." And they go, "Oh, he has letters of transit. Go on through." That's not a thing. Any customs agent would be like, "No, we don't care what letters you have. You are a wanted terrorist, sir, and we are arresting you." That's what would really happen. But in the movie Casablanca, they're just like, "Oh, if you have the letters, then no questions asked. You can just wander through." And that's the point of it, but really the point of it is just to have something for everybody to fight over. So yeah, so he's got the letters of transit, and he's trying to get them because he is a very important, depending on which side you're on, he's either a terrorist or he's a freedom fighter. He's trying to fight the Nazis, and the Nazis consider him a terrorist because he's trying to fight the Nazis, but like he's trying to fight for freedom and trying to fight for a free world. So the question is, will Rick help him even though Rick is kind of in love with his wife, which is kind of
And he
the
stayed
drama.
neutral.
And he's what? And he's trying to stay neutral,
And
yeah. So, like, what did you think was gonna happen? So, spoilers for this movie that is literally 80 years old, 84 years old. So, movie came out in 1942. It was filmed in 1941. It takes place in 1941. Interestingly enough, when they filmed Casablanca, I don't know if you know this, but when they filmed it, when they started filming it, America actually was not in the war yet. The United States doesn't enter the war until after Pearl Harbor, which happens. The attack on Pearl Harbor happens in 1941 on December
December
7th. Yeah, December 7th. So when they filmed most of the movie, the United States was really trying to stay neutral. Like at the very end of the year, the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor, and the United States is like, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to enter this war." So by the time Casablanca is released at the beginning of 1942, Casablanca is actually released in November of 1942, but by the time it was released, the U.S. was in the war. So what they did was they actually filmed the last scene of the movie where they're walking away and saying, "We're going off to war now." Like they filmed that
Mhm.
after most of the rest of the movie. That was like in reshoots because they
Mhm.
had to change the ending. And then they added it because they wanted it to be, sort of like they wanted it to match what happened in real life. So that was changed at the end. So I don't know. One of the things that I'm wondering is you said you didn't have any opinion between Rick versus Victor at all. Did you think she was going to pick one of them? Because people are sort of surprised that, spoilers for a movie that's 80 years old, she ends up with Victor. She doesn't go with Rick. And
I
she's
thought
about
she
to.
was going to go with Victor.
You thought she was
Um,
going to go with Victor. You didn't think she was going to stay with Rick.
it kinda changed throughout it, but especially, in the one scene where she seems
Hmm.
so defensive about it, and I'm like, "Oh, she's gonna stick with him." Like,
Okay.
the way she's acting.
Hmm.
Especially
Yeah.
during the one scene towards the end where I don't remember how she got into his house, but she did.
Hmm. So you thought she loved them both, though, but you believed her when she said she was in love with both guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Bergman, I think, is one of the best actresses who ever lived. So I really like her as an actress, and this movie is like, it's one of her most. It probably is her most famous role. Have you ever seen Humphrey Bogart and other stuff?
Uh,
He
maybe?
was
I
right.
don't know.
He's again one of the most famous actors ever, and it's kind of funny because for like people older than me, even people like your grandma's age, my mom, your grandma, he was like a super famous actor when she was little. So
Mhm.
like this movie came out even before your grandma was born, right? Like, but these people are super famous when she's little. So that's why it's like now it's been long enough that like I'm surprised that it hasn't come up, that it was not like a movie that like, I mean, it's not the kind of movie you'd watch in school, but like that you would have just seen like just randomly. Well, actually, I was gonna say it's kind of thing that you maybe just see randomly on like a cable channel late at night, but you don't really watch TV that way. Like, because you watch things you watch TV on Netflix, so you only ever watch movies that you intend to.
I
You
have,
never
like,
you
direct
don't really flip channel.
services.
Yeah. Does your dad?
I think sometimes, like, for
Hmm.
sports, but for the most
Yeah,
part,
for
we use
sports.
services.
Yeah. So, what did your parents say when you told them you were going to watch Casablanca?
I think dad said something about me watching a black and white movie, but I don't really remember.
Did he watch it with you?
No, I watched that one alone. It took me 2 separate days to watch it because I could not follow it. I had
Hmm.
to take a break and come back to it.
Okay. So, all right, it's not your favorite, but where do you come down with it? I'm 2 thumbs up with it. But I love this movie.
I'm
Where'd you
I'm
fall down?
I'm in the middle. It wasn't a bad movie by any means. It
Mhm.
just wasn't my favorite.
Would you recommend anybody watch it for anybody your age, or would you be like, you could skip this one?
I think it would be a good thing to watch.
Really?
It's obviously, like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but it's interesting. It's a good movie still.
Okay. But you said you had trouble following it, so do you need to like watch it in 2 sittings? Would you ever watch it with friends, or is it too old to do that? Did it
I
feel like
think I'd watch it
schoolwork?
with friends. We might talk through it, watch it with friends.
Okay. Yeah. One of my favorites. So thank you for watching it with me. I think of all the old movies that I could think of, because I want to make sure I had some classics on our list of things that we review. This was the one where I'm like, oh, this will serve her well. Like now when she goes to college, you still got like 5 years before then. But when you go to college, you'll be like, and you take like a film studies class, they'll assign this, and you'll be like, oh, I've seen Casablanca, and you'll be the only one. So that'd be good. Or
I've seen that.
maybe a million people will watch our podcast, and like everybody that you go to school with will be like, oh, yes, I watched Casablanca because Marie and her uncle said to.
People recommend you're that 14-year-old on the podcast.
Yes, exactly. So, all right. So, are you going to watch more movies with me?
Definitely.
Okay. All right, great. So, for everybody who's been listening, thank you. You can follow us on, I don't know, right now we're just in the Vox Popcast channel on our podcast stream, so you can follow us on Stitcher or Pandora or Apple Podcast or whatever, and we're also on YouTube. How do we do that? We're on the Vox Popcast YouTube channel, where they should do what?
Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
You say that better than I am because you're used to it more than it. But yes, do that. Do all the YouTube things and do all the podcast things, and then leave us comments and let us know what you think. Let us know what movies we should watch, because we sooner or later we're going to run out of a list of stuff that right now we're just recommending stuff that I like for her, and she's recommending stuff for me. We need to watch the movies where neither of us have seen it before. We haven't done that
Oh,
yet.
that would be fun.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.